Thank you. Well, good morning, Cypress Creek. Good morning. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Oh my gosh. Okay, so some of y'all really got the hint really fast, but that was a test. So this is a little experiment. So I will say that, and if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So this time you were prepared. Let me know if I talk too fast, because I do. As I get more excited, I do tend to talk fast. So I'll look over, Bob, I'm going to look over at you occasionally, and if I run my mouth a little too fast, you'll slow me down, and we'll all go. Now, what if I told you that Cypress Creek is going to become a beacon to all nations, that this place right here will be a light unto all the people everywhere, that this will be a place of hope, of joy, of love, and of acceptance? And now if I said, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. All you have to do is clap your hands twice and it'll happen. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So you guys get the idea. And I have to say, you clap your hands very well. So that's wonderful. But let's do a little analysis of this. The first time, some of you did, I won't ask who. Some of you did, and some of you didn't. You weren't ready. You said, wait, does he really mean this? The second time, you had a reason. It was an experiment, right? Right, yeah. So we knew it was an experiment. The third time, not only did you have a reason, and not only did you know it was an experiment, but the third time, I added a spiritual gift, a spiritual reason. And is it really hard to clap our hands? Yes or no? No, it's not hard to clap our hands. This is about seeking. And in this case, it's about having a thing to do. And is it more or less difficult than not doing it? In this case, you judged and you said, is it really hard to clap my hands? No. So I'll go ahead and do it. In other words, are we seeking a reward, or are we sinking from our own righteousness? Long time ago, probably about 25 years, something along those lines, maybe 25 years ago, I was directing a choir in graduate school. I was in the doctoral program. I was down at U of H, and I would go in, and I had these songs that I would pick, and I put them in order, and I practiced them, and I sang through them, and I could sing the different parts, and I thought I was pretty good. And then when I'd get into rehearsal, we would sing a little bit, and it wouldn't be right, and so I'd stop, and I'd think about it, and then I'd stop, and then I'd say, oh, let's do it again, and we'd do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And boy, those kids got tired. They got real tired. And let's face it, I was awful. I was really, really awful as a choir director. But yet I'd been hired, or I'd been brought into this program because I was a good choir director, and I knew I wanted to be a good choir director, but I was terrible at rehearsal, and I didn't know what to do. And one day I slunk, and I do mean slunk, into my professor's office, Dr. H. And I really hated to admit this. I suck at rehearsals. And I expected him to do something like, oh, or at least, wow, or something, get angry, get upset, get frustrated. But instead, all he did was look at me with a very unsurprised face and say, "Have you tried doing what I told you to do?" Guys, I call this I know-ism. I know-ism. Some of you might call it arrogance, but we won't go that far. I mean, I don't, but some of us call it arrogance, but some of us call it I know. In our scripture today, we have a general. He's a very famous general. He's well-liked. The king of Aram, which is a little kingdom north of Israel. Israel is just south of it. In Israel, by the way, does not include Jerusalem in these days. It's just a little further south. It would be like Haifa and places like that if you're familiar with that part of the Middle East. He's a great king. Won a lot of battles. Everybody likes him. The king likes him. They all like him, except that he has one major problem. He's got all these sores all over his body. He's hurting. He's itching. He has great health care, I'm sure. He went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, we don't really know what to do. Try rubbing some straw on it or something like that." And he did all of that kind of stuff, and it didn't work. His wife had a slave girl from Israel. We won't talk about that. And she said, "Go down and see this guy named Elisha," not to be confused with Elijah. Go down and see Elisha. He's down in Israel. He'll tell you what to do. Naaman finally says, okay. He goes to the king. "King, I need some money and some clothes and some stuff to bring as a gift to the king of Israel so that I can go see Elisha and get cured." The king says, "No problem. Here's your 2 weeks off. Here's your tanks. Here's your chariots. Here's your Cadillac." You got to have a Cadillac if you're going to go to Israel. Here's all the stuff that you need. Go enjoy. Go get better. So Naaman sets out with a large number of people, and he goes down to Israel. And Elisha hears that this guy is coming. He's like, "Send him to me. Send him to me. No problem." So up comes Elisha with his camels and his horses and his Cadillac and whatever else he's got. And he gets there to Elisha's house. Boom, boom, boom. He knocks on the door. He expects Elisha will come out, maybe be glowing or something, and she'll come up into him and he'll be like, "My son, you are now cured." But that doesn't happen. Instead, a servant guy comes out. "Hello, what are you here for?" "Oh, I'm here to see Elisha." "Why?" "I got all these sores." And the guy says, "Yeah, I see that. Go to the river, wash 7 times. That's what my boss tells me to tell you. You'll be fine." Shuts the door. Imagine if you had driven all that way down from one place to the other to get fixed, and the fixer couldn't even be bothered to see you. Naaman says, "Why couldn't the guy come out himself? Doesn't he know how important I am?" Okay, let's stop the story for a second. Poor Naaman. See, he had rights, and he was supposed to, and his rights have been violated. And I heard somebody say, in fact, this is a wonderful, a doctor wrote this, said, "When my rights try to move in, they can force my serenity level down. I have to discard my rights and my expectations by asking myself, how important is this really? How important was it that Elisha came to see him instead of the servant?" So Naaman says, "Well, if this is all you can do for me, I'm out of here. I can go wash up in Damascus and get clean there." I mean, I'm assuming that that Naaman had taken a bath every now and then. He probably knew how to do that. You wanted me to go bathe? Fine. I'll go bathe back home where I belong. So he packs up his stuff, he gets his camels, he gets his horses, he gets his Cadillac, and all of the other things that he probably has Louis Vuitton luggage. He brings all of his stuff with him, and he gets ready to go back to Aram, and all of his servants who probably had to walk down there in the heat, with no shoes, in that nasty, sweaty weather. Wait, Naaman, don't do this. Don't do this. See, Naaman was affected with I know-ism. He didn't look with the lens of the Spirit. He was too busy looking with the lens of what he had seen before. See, Naaman was more concerned about logic and about rights and about what he knows rather than what the Spirit says. He knew that the baths wouldn't save him, but his servants kept after him and after him. See, here's the important thing, Cypress Creek, is that none of us, never, not one of us does this alone. None of us. We all have people, we all have friends, we all have companions, compatriots, even parents who walk with us and say, you might not want to do that. There wasn't a problem with the water, you see. There wasn't a problem with the instructions. There wasn't a problem with the person who gave him the words to cure his skin. It was an internal problem of Naaman's. He had to go outside of himself. See, it's important to find people that we trust. It's easy to get affected with I know-ism. Here's a quote. When we show know-it-all behavior, it's a sign of insecurity. Okay. Some of you know this. I have type 1 diabetes. If I make it to November 30th of this year, I will have had type 1 diabetes for 40 years. That's a long time of making good decisions, bad decisions, sometimes extremely bad decisions, and decisions that were questionable at best. I know day-to-day life with type 1 diabetes. That's the one where you take injections. So then I go into my doctor's office, and I already know everything. And he starts telling me what to do. He says, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I go, okay, before I tell you what I do, let me tell you this. I have a spiritual advisor, and she says to me wonderful things like, God didn't bring you this far to drop you off. And she says to me this, Joel, how is your medical degree? I say, I don't have one. And she says, exactly. So now I have learned to make these inane noises when I'm supposed to hear something. You know, my doctor says things like, use nasal spray on these little sensors that I have. Use nasal spray. And I go, And try injecting yourself in these different places. And I go, oh. Because, see, here's the problem, is that I, too, suffer from I know-ism. Naaman overcomes his own I know-ism, ready to make amends. And so he goes back to Elisha, and he apologizes. He offers Elisha money, but Elisha refuses it. Elisha saw the power at work of God. He began to look at his circumstances with the lens of the Spirit. See, all it takes is just a little bit. It takes one time to find that magic. It was no longer about being cured. It was about worshiping the God who had cured him. It wasn't about following directions. It was about following God's will. It wasn't about being reborn. It was about a new way of life. From that day on, Naaman prayed to the God of Israel because he began to look at his journey instead of logically. He began to look at it spiritually. He began to see God in other places. He was no longer his own master. The general was now the servant of the ever-living and ever-loving God. No longer suffering from the disease of I know-ism. He didn't worry as he left. What happens if I get leprosy again? What happens if this happens again? Because you see, Naaman had faith. Today, my friends, we have to sometimes put on the armor of faith because we can't do anything else. We watch things that happen to us, things that happen in the news, things that happen around us, horrible things. What does this all mean? Put on the faith. Carry it like armor. Use it like boots. And by gosh, we too will make it through this, but not alone. Always together. Are we going to seek faith or are we going to sink? Would you pray with me? We seek your gifts, O God, the gifts of power, the gifts of love, the gifts of acceptance, the gifts of healing, the gift of mourning, the gifts of redemption. Now help us to see those gifts using the power of the Spirit, the lens of the Spirit. We still can't do this without you. And sadly, we still can't do this without one another. So help us cling to one another, to this faith community, to our faith community tight, because none of us get to do this alone. We ask all these things in your precious name, and all God's children said, Amen. Now we got a song for you.